New details reveal the order in which the victims were attacked just got flipped. In the new 2020 that aired last night, one of the investigators reveal they don't believe that Xana was the third victim. One of the lead investigators, Darren Gilbertson, stated that he believes the person Dylan heard say someone's in here was actually Xana. He stated that shortly after picking up that DoorDash order, she went to her room, got on her phone, and was on TikTok until about 4:12 a.m. He said that she likely heard the commotion upstairs, ran up the stairs, saw what was happening, yelled, "Someone's in here," and that's who Dylan heard run back down the stairs. Now, here's what I found interesting, the way that he said this. He was talking about when Xana came back downstairs, that they believe that he attacked Ethan to incapacitate him from intervening. Remember that Dylan heard someone in the bathroom on the second floor crying? Well, that was Xana. Based on Darren Gilbertson's interview, I believe Xana went upstairs, saw what was happening, ran back downstairs, and locked herself or barricaded herself in that bathroom. Kohberger then attacks Ethan, and that's when Dylan hears him say, "Don't worry, I'm here to help you," to Xana. Now, it's long been believed that Madison Mogen was the first victim, then Kaylee, then Xana, then Ethan. However, based on that interview and the evidence that was collected, they do believe that Ethan was the third victim. So what are your all's thoughts? Do you think this makes more sense than the original theory? I certainly do.
Two prisoners are on the run. Who are they, and what do we know about why they were locked up? Matthew Armstrong and Daniel Washburn absconded from HMP Lale on New Year's Day. The men, aged 35 and 40, fled between 5 and 8 p.m. and are being hunted. CCTV footage of their clothing has been released, and they are marked as wanted nationwide. Call 999 and you spot them and do not approach them. So why would you need to not approach them? First, Matthew Armstrong. In 2009, he was jailed for killing a gentle grandfather, Paul Smith. Armstrong hit him in the neck and face with a large, heavy stone. The 54-year-old was found dead in a pool of blood on the pavement. He received life with a minimum of 19 years for murder and robbery. So, why is he in a Category D open prison? Lale is famous for escape, so why put him there? Next, Daniel Washburn. He was detained for life for false imprisonment, causing actual bodily harm and robbery. For that, he was jailed for life.
5 documentaries that will haunt me for the rest of my life. Fair warning, because every single one of these is extremely graphic. This was the largest mass shooting in America, and the entire thing was filmed. Everybody had their phones out, which essentially is this documentary, and you literally see people get. This guy lit his girlfriend on fire, and it was all caught on camera from an ATM. You watch this happen and you see what ultimately happened to her. She ended up being the first person to ever testify at her own murder trial. This is about a boy who was severely abused by his parents. Ultimately, he ended up dying and the entire system failed him. This is about a group of people who secretly filmed ISIS risking their life. And this was to expose them to the world, and the footage is fucked. We'll see people die in this. This is a film about how humans treat animals, not just by eating them. I had to turn this off multiple times because the footage of what people do to animals all over the world is very, very, very disgusting. Let me know what you think about these in the comments.
The crime scene photos from Michael Jackson's bedroom have resurfaced again. Somebody posted them, so let's go through them, shall we? This was his nightstand, and all of the... I'm assuming that all of these are his kids, but what about this one? What's that sweet baby thing? And this one, too. I'm interested. I'm trying to figure out what that photo is, too, but this whole thing is eerie. This was on the bed next to him, and it just really gives me the absolute creeps, this doll laying next to him on the bed. This would all appear very normal, except for this knife. What is a knife like that? Like a whole ass butcher knife doing on his bedside table. Like, the room is just also covered in medical supplies for obvious reasons. This note gives me the creeps. Discipline with love. No violence ever. Okay. And then this is what the room looked like. Like, look, just absolute filth everywhere. And then like one of those like collapsible toy things. And I think this is the one that just like sends me into outer space. Like, look at this like layout of all of these different costumes. It's hard to tell where this was in his room. Maybe it was just in the closet, but the way that this like image makes it look is it's like out in the open. I don't know why the hardest thing for me to get over is this knife on that nightstand. I don't know. Had you guys seen these before? I hadn't actually seen pictures of his bedroom before.
Did you know that the Chris Watts house just sold for the second time since the murders? This is what the house looked like before when Chris, Shanann, Bella, and Cece lived there. Although the outside of the house has been changed, not much has changed on the inside. The previous owners who purchased the home right after the crime only had it for a little bit under a year and a half. But neighbors said that people would frequently drive by the house, take pictures of it, and that they even had some attempted break-ins. When the house was listed again back in April of this year, they had to do some major price cuts. It was listed initially for $775,000. And this is in contrast to in 2014 when the home was built and when Shanann and Chris bought it for $400,000. Now the home has sat on the market for months and was finally just marked as sold this October. But the listing for the home was made relatively private and they did not mention the gruesome crime that occurred there. Instead, the home was simply just described as being beautiful. The most recent owners who bought the home this year ended up getting it for $650,000.
She was in the car with her, bro. Or she tried to save her or something. Somebody. Hey, was you riding with her? Did you call any of your peoples yet?
This is going to be an absolutely wild week for the courts. Here is everything that's lined up. So today, January 5th, is the federal arraignment for Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Also today begins the trial for Sarah Grace Patrick, the teen accused of killing her mother and stepfather. And the trial begins for Adrian Gonzalez, the former Uvalde school officer. He is charged because prosecutors say that he failed to follow active shooter protocol by not confronting the gunman and instead retreating, which contributed to delays during the Uvalde school shooting. Tomorrow, January 6th, is Keefe suppression hearing on the Tupac murder case. The suppression hearing is about whether statements he gave to law enforcement can be excluded because his defense argues that they were obtained in violation of his rights in the case tied to the killing of Tupac. January 7th is the arraignment for Nick Reiner. Nick Reiner is accused of fatally attacking his parents inside of their home. Prosecutors are alleging that it was a deliberate and violent act. And finally, on January 9th is the federal hearing for Luigi Mangione. His federal hearing is about whether the government can keep key evidence and legal arguments in his federal murder case over the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This will include challenges to the death penalty decision and admissibility of seized evidence. So there we have it. It is going to be a crazy week for the courts and the news. As always, I will keep you guys updated, so make sure and hit that follow button for the latest.
A school bus filled with 26 children children, all kidnapped and buried alive. This is the largest case of mass kidnapping in American history. The Chowchilla kidnapping, this is one of the most bizarre true crime cases. You're gonna think that I'm telling you the plot of a movie. Ed Ray was the school bus driver that fateful day in California in 1976. He's driving his normal bus route. He's driving on a more rural stretch of land when he notices a white van stopped in the middle of the road. Thinking that maybe they're experiencing some kind of car trouble, he pulls over to try and help them, and that's when two men get out of the van. They have nylon stockings over their heads and they're carrying large weapons, and they start approaching the school bus. Ed has 26 children on his school bus, ranging in ages from 5 years old to 14 years old, and he's terrified if he makes one wrong move that these men are going to open fire on all these children. So for the time being, he complies with whatever they say. The two men hijack the school bus and begin driving it away, while a third kidnapper is following behind them in the white van. They drove to a secluded area, and that's when they loaded the 26 children and the school bus driver Ed into two vans, and then they drove those vans 12 hours. And the back of the vans are completely boarded up, so they're in these vans for 12 hours in total darkness. Can you even imagine the fear and confusion? Ed is the only adult in the situation, trying his best to be responsible for 26 children, try and keep them calm and keep them safe. And meanwhile, back home, dozens of parents are realizing
another body has been found in a Houston bayou, this time downtown near the intersection of White Oak and Buffalo bayous. This is the first one of 2026. It was actually one of our KPRC2 crews that was down here and spotted some commotion by this bayou right here. That's whenever they walked over and saw the person floating in the water. This is a roughly 20 to maybe 30-year-old African-American male that is floating in the water. Houston police, Houston fire, now on scene working, but this is still very fresh. I just spoke with one of the lieutenants who tells me that they're still trying to figure out if this is indeed just a natural cause death or if there's a criminal nature behind this. And we can't forget the last year that we had 34 bodies found in Houston area bayous during that year. Now, this isn't record breaking or shattering by any stretch of the imagination. In 2024, there were 35, but last year, especially the latter part of last year, there's been a lot more attention on bodies in Houston bayous.
If you feel like you've seen every true crime documentary, you've come to the right place. Here are all the new ones coming out in January. I'll have a full list to screenshot at the end, and I do this every month, so make sure you like and follow to stay up to date. The Murder of Joanna Yates revisits the case of a woman murdered on Christmas Day in 2010. Her case became a media sensation, with the press focused on only one person. The Cult of the Real Housewife is about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Mary Cosby and the inner workings of Faith Temple Pentecostal Church, which she runs with her husband/grandpa. You heard me right. The cult behind the killer, the Andrea Yates story, looks at how extremist religious teachings and isolation allegedly influenced a mother before the 2001 drownings of her 5 children. Harlan Coben's final twist brings Coben's signature storytelling to real-life cases, following threads that expose the hidden lives of seemingly ordinary people. We're getting season 2 of The Curious Case of, and they'll continue spotlighting bizarre, headline-making crimes with a new case in each episode. Killer Confessions: Case Files of a Texas Ranger dives into cold and nearly closed cases, where a Texas Ranger named James Holland uses his unique brand of interrogation tactics in cases once considered unsolvable. Vice News presents Epstein Didn't Kill Himself. The title kind of says it all, but it explores how the mysteries surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's life and death sparked widespread distrust, unanswered questions, and a conspiracy that refuses to fade. The Hillside Strangler breaks down the late 1970s killing spree that terrorized Southern California, detailing how 2 relatives murdered young women and hid it in plain sight before they were exposed. Handsome Devil examines the 2019 murders of 2 women in Cape Coral, Florida, where charisma, manipulation, and online obsession complicated the public perception of a killer. Kidnapped Elizabeth Smart revisits a 2002 home abduction that became one of the most watched missing person cases in U.S. history. 33 photos from the ghetto centers on rare images secretly taken during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, documenting crimes against civilians from a perspective nearly lost. Here's your full list to screenshot for the month. Let me know which one you're most interested to watch in the comments. And make sure you follow so you get these lists every month.
So where did they go pee-pee and poopies?
I don't know.
Was there anything else that what was there any other reason why Dada and Angela put Anthony and Tommy in the garage?
Well, because they kept on peeing themselves.
They kept on peeing themselves?
Yeah, because in the middle of the night they had to go pee. Okay. And Mom and Dad wouldn't allow them.
Oh my God. Okay.
And then they kept on peeing in their pants because they weren't allowed to go in the middle of the night to the bathroom. And once I had to stay up all night just in the bathroom just to brush my teeth.
Why?
I had to brush my teeth. I didn't brush my teeth, and I had to. And I almost stayed in the bathroom for like 3 hours when everyone was sleeping.
But who you had to stay in the bathroom?
Until I was finished brushing my teeth.
Who said that?
Angela and Dad.
Angela and Dad? Oh my God. So was Anthony and Tommy try to ask for help, call, or when they were inside the garage, did you hear them?
Yeah.
Did you hear the noise?
Sometimes they were crying and they said that they really had to go pee.
Okay, and what happened that they couldn't go inside the house?
They had to hold their pee in.
They had to hold it?
Sometimes Angela and Dad stayed out all day, and Anthony Thomas stayed home with the door locked.
With the door locked? So they weren't able to get out from the garage?
No, but they had to hold their pee in all day until they came back home.
Did Anthony and Tommy said about this to anybody in school?
No, because they would be punished for like 3 days.
And what would be the punishment? What will happen to them?
Staying in room for 3 days, not doing anything, and not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Getting slapped in the butt.
Slapped in the butt? Would it hurt? Did you see anything on Anthony and Thomas's body that showed bruises, boo-boos?
Almost everywhere.
Almost everywhere?
Like when Dad beat them up, they had like this little thing on their head right here, bleeding, and they put a band-aid on it. And Thomas, like around right here, was like this big.
Okay.
And Thomas said something.
Whose head was that?
That was Anthony's. And Thomas said like something right, Mom. And Thomas said something like right here, also too.
And what happened to him when he had a bruise here?
Oh.
Do you see that ICE might have choked out and killed someone in one of its facilities and then tried to lie about it? This was Geraldo Lunas Campos, originally from Cuba. He was picked up by ICE back in July of 2025. DHS is claiming that they picked him up because he had a deportation order and an extensive criminal record, which we will get into in a second. After being picked up, he was moved to Camp East Montana in El Paso, Texas. And on January 3rd of 2026, ICE claimed that in the facility, he had a medical episode. The medical episode happened on January 3rd, but it took ICE 6 days to put out any information on what happened to Geraldo. And in their communication, they really want you to know that he is a criminal, that he is allegedly an aggravated felon and convicted child sex offender. And after establishing Geraldo's criminal past, ICE try to paint themselves as the heroes in the story. DHS officials even did an interview with People magazine saying that Geraldo was trying to take his life and it was the staff who stepped in immediately to save his life. But now the medical examiner who did the autopsy on Geraldo is saying that the story that ICE is giving may not be the truth, that his death might have been a homicide and not an attempted suicide. The doctor in Geraldo's case is listing the preliminary cause of death as asphyxiation due to neck and chest compression, which means Lunas Campos did not get enough oxygen because of pressure on his neck and chest. And pending a toxicology report, the doctor does believe that he'll be listing the manner of death as homicide. And it isn't just the doctor's finding that are leading people to believe that this might have been a homicide. There is also eyewitness account of what might have happened to Geraldo. Someone who was in the facility with Geraldo said that he saw the deceased struggling with 5 guards after refusing to enter the unit. And that guards kept choking Geraldo while he repeatedly kept saying, "No puedo respirar, I can't breathe." This eyewitness account and the coroner's report might explain why DHS took almost 6 days to give any information on what happened to Geraldo, trying to build a narrative before the actual information got out. And I think they were hoping that Geraldo having a criminal record would make people not care about this story at all, because they want to be judge, jury, and executioner. They believe that they're justified to take anybody's life, whether it's a criminal or a good person. And look, before I finish this video, I'm not trying to defend Geraldo's actions. We are asking for a system that holds people accountable, that if they do something wrong, they have to serve their time and pay back what they owe to society. But what we don't want is law enforcement, even ICE, to feel like they're entitled to take someone's life whenever they want. And please share this story so people can see what ICE is doing, not just on our streets, but behind closed doors.
My name is Kristen Thorne. I'm a 5-time Emmy Award-winning investigative true crime journalist, and these are the top 5 true crime stories you're going to want to keep an eye on. I'll be keeping an eye on in 2026. First, Rex Heuermann, the man believed to be the Long Island serial killer. He's been charged with the deaths of 7 women, with killing them and burying their bodies across Long Island decades ago. He is set to go to trial in 2026. Number 2, the Alexander brothers, the luxury real estate tycoons who are now accused by the federal government of sex trafficking. Their lawyers have said nothing that these boys did amounted to sex trafficking. They partied a lot. They certainly were with a lot of women, but they say these women knew what they were getting into. If this case sounds familiar, maybe like Sean Diddy Combs, it is. It's almost the same exact case that the feds are trying to pursue. And in fact, the legal team now representing the Alexander brothers also represented Sean Diddy Combs. Number 3, the case against Matthew Nilo. He's a former New York City lawyer who's been accused of raping 4 women in Boston in the early 2000s. He has maintained his innocence. This case has been really quiet for the last year or 2, and I have a feeling in 26, as both sides continue to argue over some DNA evidence, that we may see some movement on this case. Number 4, the case against Nick Reiner, the man accused of killing Rob and Michelle Reiner, his parents. This is going to be a case that we're going to learn a lot more about in 26, including motive, what led up to this horrific incident in 2025. Not only Hollywood is going to be watching because they knew the Reiners so well, but the entire country, as families really struggle to understand how this happened and why it happened. Number 5, the Raspberry Killer. Zulma Guzman Castro. She lives in Colombia and she's accused of killing 2 teenage girls by poisoning chocolate-covered raspberries that she gave to them. One of the girls was the daughter of a man that Guzman Castro was allegedly having an affair with. Guzman Castro has been on the run since April and just recently was discovered struggling to swim in a river in the UK and was pulled from the freezing water. We're now learning that this man's wife died from the same metal being in her system in 2021. And we've learned that that husband and some of his sons also tested positive. Guzman Castro has said publicly that she has nothing to do with any of this. This is going to be a really interesting case to watch. And those, my friends, are the 5 true crime stories you should be watching in 2026. I will bring you all the updates here on my social media.
So check this crazy ass loophole I just went through. I nutted in the condom. Put water in the condom. Okay? Then you want to take it a step further, put the condom over a light. At that point, you're going to see a homemade lava lamp. Not cabin though.
Huge breaking news. Do you remember the case of the 3 guys from Kansas City, Missouri who froze to death in their friend's backyard? Well, arrests have finally been made. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this case, I'm going to show you one of my other videos that has all the details, and then I'll let you know who got arrested. It's been a year since these 3 guys were found deceased in their friend's backyard, and this case has yet to be resolved. Now, I have a playlist on my TikTok called Kansas City Death, so if you want all of the details so far, check that out. But here's the short version. The guys are 38-year-old Ricky Johnson, 37-year-old Clayton McGeeney, and 36-year-old Dave Harrington. On January 7th, 2024, they went over to their friend Jordan Willis's house to watch the Chiefs game, and then nobody heard from them for 2 days. So on January 9th, Clayton's fiancée April went over to the house, but Jordan wasn't answering, so out of pure desperation, she took the screen out of one of the windows and entered the home. That's when she noticed one of the men, I believe it was Dave Harrington, sitting in a lawn chair on the back patio. She called the police immediately, and after they arrived, they found the bodies of the other 2 guys out in the backyard. Jordan ended up answering the door wearing his underwear and holding onto an empty wine glass, stating that he had been asleep for the past 2 days and had no idea his friends were back there. Now, mind you, this window goes over the kitchen sink, and this is the dining room slider. And one of the guys was sitting right here in that chair. Jordan had an empty wine glass in his hand, which makes me think he went to the kitchen at some point, but yet he didn't know somebody was there. This is 38-year-old Jordan Willis, an HIV scientist with a doctorate degree, and within days of the bodies being found, he moved out of that house and checked himself into rehab. He also retained an attorney who, of course, said he had nothing to do with any of it. Now, the preliminary autopsy report showed that all three guys had high levels of fent, coke, and marijuana in their systems. With Jordan stating that he had been asleep for 2 days straight and had no idea what was going on, that makes me and a lot of other people wonder if he also had those substances in his body. What everybody's been wanting to know this whole time is, did he provide it? And
There are 5 criminal trials you need to be following in 2026, part 2. Coming in hot, we have Lindsay Clancy. This case literally broke the internet because there were so many women that were on her side because she was dealing with postpartum psychosis and a whole bunch of other things. Lindsay Clancy is being charged with unaliving her 3 young children in her home in January of 2023. Following the events, she decided to throw herself out of the window in hopes of unaliving herself, but did not succeed. She is now paralyzed from the waist down. Clancy's defense has maintained the whole time that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis, and there's actually a trail that leads up to this, but it's definitely teetering on the break of either premeditated or not premeditated because there were certain things that happened up to this event that may make it seem as if it's premeditated. Her trial is expected to begin in July. While we're talking about Lindsay's, the second case you want to be following is Lindsay Shiver. Lindsay Shiver is accused of plotting with her boyfriend and another man to unalive her then husband, who was a former Auburn football player, Robert Shiver. Lindsay is expected to stand trial in March of 2026. Next is Shanna Gardner and Mario Fernandez. Aldana, I think is his second last name. And they are charged with the unaliving of Gardner's ex-husband, who was a Microsoft executive, Jair Bridgen. Bridgen was pew-pewed down in the street shortly after dropping off his young children, the children that he shared with Gardner. At the time of the unaliving, Bridgen's youngest child was in the back seat or bucked into her car seat. Thankfully, she was not harmed. Investigators later found out that he was the victim of a murder-to-hire plot planned by Gardner and her current husband. The hitman actually came forward and later confessed and is now going to be a witness in her trial, which is expected to start in August of 2026. The next one is the case of Brendan Banfield, who is charged with the deaths of his wife, as well as Joseph Ryan, I believe. Both Christine and Ryan were gunned down in Banfield's home in February of 2023. Come to find out, it's all part of a larger scheme because he and the au pair were having an affair. The whole thing, and there's a whole bunch of little pieces that play into it, definitely a really good one to look into. And last but not least, we have Keefe D, who is being accused of unaliving Tupac. This trial is set to start in August of 2026. Let me know if you guys have any questions regarding any of these cases, and if you want a part 3, just like or comment.
Oh, yeah, one more thing. If y'all see me on Love Island, mind your fucking business, bitch. I'm trying to find love, bitch. Y'all had y'all motherfucking chance.
This video was taken shortly after this woman found a truck full of children's bodies. I mean, this is horrible. The horrifying incident took place at a gas station in Michoacan, Mexico, where the woman worked inspecting semi-trucks. But on this day, this specific truck pulled in and something seemed very off about the driver. He was very nervous, tense, and sweating profusely. The woman noticed that the truck's back door was slightly open, so she decided to take a look. She slowly opened the door and immediately burst into tears. Inside were hundreds of children's bodies piled on top of each other like food. She also saw a lot of blood on the floor, and that's when she noticed black plastic bags, and when she took a closer look, she noticed they were stuffed with severed limbs. They were filled with small arms, legs, and even heads. This video was taken shortly after, and she is seen gasping for air and can barely even stand up. And what's even more horrifying, just days after this video surfaced, this woman was found chopped up in a suitcase left in a parking lot. And next to her remains was a message saying, "This is what happens when you saw what you shouldn't have, don't be a snitch." Rest in peace to this poor woman and all of those children, and as always, I'll keep you guys updated. Here's video proof that the hotel allowed Liam to pass away and chose not to help him.
Encounters with Liam multiple times, had come down to the lobby, was causing a disturbance, kept being escorted back up to his room. There was an incident where he was very frustrated and was smashing his laptop in the lobby. And then the final time he came back down, he actually passed out in the lobby of the hotel, looked like convulsing a little bit, and had to be physically taken back up to his room. And that was about 5 minutes before the eventual incident.
The hotel tried to hide the fact that Liam was convulsing in the hotel lobby before they threw him back into—
I'm a distant relative of Danielle's Dislicki, and I want to talk about Floyd Galloway Jr., the man charged in Danielle's disappearance. I want to talk about why justice hasn't happened and how long this has actually dragged on. In March 2019, which is more than 2 years after Danielle vanished, Michigan's Attorney General charged Floyd Galloway Jr. with first-degree premeditated murder in her case, which means the state says that there's enough evidence to go to trial, even though her body has never been found. In September of 2019, a judge officially bound the case over for trial, meaning he agreed that there was enough to take it to jury. But where things start to get frustrating is because of legal fights over evidence, the case never actually has reached a full trial at all. Judges rule that, key evidence can't be used because of how it was obtained. This is including surveillance videos, bank records, Danielle's Fitbit, her keys, her phone info, big information, huge chunks of what could show where she was or what happened. They're just saying we can't use them. A judge said that some of the evidence was based on information that came from a private polygraph test that violated attorney-client privilege, meaning it can't be used against him in court. And that has really, really slowed everything down. After years of delays, the court has finally set a new trial date for Floyd, and that is February 2nd of 2026. And there's another pretrial hearing on June 25th of 2026. But remember, please, Danielle disappeared in December of 2016. That means it's been over 9 years, almost 10 years, since she walked out of her office and was never seen again. People keep asking why it's taking so long. They're suppressing evidence. They're ruling that major pieces of evidence cannot be used because of how they got them. There's legal motions that are being pushed to dismiss parts of the case, even arguing that the whole thing should be thrown out. Multiple hearings are happening. There's been so many pre-trial arguments, but there's never been an actual trial. So what needs to happen for justice? The trial needs to actually start, not just hearings, like a real trial where evidence is presented to a jury. Strong, admissible evidence needs to be shared legally, like what they can actually use in court without being suppressed. The jury needs to hear the entire story, not just little bits and pieces of it. And most importantly, Danielle deserves a verdict. Whether it's guilty or not, her family needs closure, okay? This isn't about politics or procedures. It's about a woman who disappeared in a family who has waited nearly a fucking decade in a system who still hasn't given a real trial for this case yet. So remember, February 2nd of 2026, that might just be the day that justice starts for Danielle.
3 men froze to death in the backyard of their friend's home on January 7th in Kansas City. It's an absolutely bizarre case, but here's everything we know so far. This is the home in Kansas City where everything happened. 38-year-old Ricky Johnson, 36-year-old Clayton McGinney, and 37-year-old David Harrison were all at this home that was being rented by their friend Jordan Willis. The men had all been friends since high school and had come over to watch the Chiefs game, but none of them ended up making it home. Family members of the 3 men had been trying to locate them for a couple days with no luck. On Tuesday, one of the men's fiancés ended up coming to the home and seeing that the men's vehicles were still parked out front. She ended up going to the door, banging several times with no answer. Reportedly, she ended up breaking a window and going inside the home. She was trying to find someone home. No one was answering. So when she went out to the back porch, she ended up finding a body. She contacted police immediately, and when they arrived and banged on the door, Jordan Willis, who was renting this home, finally got up and answered the door. He let them in voluntarily. They searched the premise, and they ended up finding 2 other bodies in the backyard. So all 3 men had been found frozen, apparently, in the backyard. That is pretty much all we know about this case right now. The police have come forward saying that it is 100% not a homicide investigation, that there was no foul play in or around the home, and that it's just being investigated as a death investigation. Everyone right now, including police, are anxiously awaiting the autopsy results and the toxicology report, wondering how 3 men in their 30s could freeze to death in the backyard of a home in Kansas City when the temperature was just...
If you feel like you've seen every true crime documentary, you've come to the right place. Here are all the new ones coming out in January. I'll have a full list to screenshot at the end, and I do this every month, so make sure you like and follow to stay up to date. The Murder of Joanna Yates revisits the case of a woman murdered on Christmas Day in 2010. Her case became a media sensation, with the press focused on only one person. The Cult of the Real Housewife is about Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Mary Cosby and the inner workings of Faith Temple Pentecostal Church, which she runs with her husband/grandpa. You heard me right. The cult behind the killer, the Andrea Yates story, looks at how extremist religious teachings and isolation allegedly influenced a mother before the 2001 drownings of her 5 children. Harlan Coben's final twist brings Coben's signature storytelling to real-life cases, following threads that expose the hidden lives of seemingly ordinary people. We're getting season 2 of The Curious Case of, and they'll continue spotlighting bizarre, headline-making crimes with a new case in each episode. Killer Confessions: Case Files of a Texas Ranger dives into cold and nearly closed cases cases, where a Texas Ranger named James Holland uses his unique brand of interrogation tactics in cases once considered unsolvable. Vice News presents Epstein Didn't Kill Himself. The title kind of says it all, but it explores how the mysteries surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's life and death sparked widespread distrust, unanswered questions, and a conspiracy that refuses to fade. The Hillside Strangler breaks down the late 1970s killing spree that terrorized Southern California, detailing how two relatives murdered young women and hid it in plain sight before they were exposed. Handsome Devil examines the 2019 murders of two women in Cape Coral, Florida, where charisma, manipulation, and online obsession complicated the public perception of a killer. Kidnapped Elizabeth Smart revisits a 2002 home abduction that became one of the most watched missing person cases in U.S. history. 33 photos from the ghetto centers on rare images secretly taken during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, documenting crimes against civilians from a perspective nearly lost. Here's your full list to screenshot for the month. Let me know which one you're most interested to watch in the comments. And make sure you follow so you get these lists every month.
Go. Peanuts.
Do it again.
My peanuts.
Do it like it hurts.
It hurts.
This is the heartbreaking account of Dominic Calhoun, a 4-year-old boy from Michigan, whose life was tragically ended in April 2010 due to the critical events he endured at the hands of his mother's boyfriend, Brandon Hayes. It is a tragic story that shows not only the depths of callousness that some human beings are capable of inflicting on a helpless child, but also how everyone in Dominic's life failed to intervene and save him, despite numerous warning signs and opportunities to do so. First of all, I want to remind you that you can support my channel with a sponsorship subscription. Your support will help me create more interesting investigations for you and uncover the complex secrets of criminal cases. I would be very grateful if you would like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss new investigations. Now let's dive into the details of this criminal story. Dominic entered the world on October 17, 2005, in Grand Blanc, Michigan. His parents were Corrine Baker and Eric Calhoun. He had an older brother, Tyler Baker, Corrine's son from a previous relationship. From the moment he arrived, Dominic brought joy and light into the lives of those around him. His bright blue eyes and infectious smile instantly captured hearts. As Dominic grew, his curiosity and zest for life became increasingly apparent. He loved nature and exploring the world around him. He especially loved fishing with his grandfather. These trips instilled in him a deep appreciation for nature and peaceful contemplation. At home, his adventurous spirit found an outlet in playing with his beloved toy tractor, which transported him to imaginary worlds in the backyard. The bond between Dominic and his older brother Tyler was unbreakable. The two were inseparable, constantly coming up with new games and adventures. They loved roughhousing and chasing each other around the yard, their laughter sounding like music. In quieter moments, they could be found together, immersed in their own little world. Dominic's gentle heart extended to all creatures, especially dogs. Whenever he met any four-legged friend, his face lit up with pure joy. He loved showering them with affection and receiving wet kisses in return. It was clear that Dominic had a gift for connecting with animals, and they were instinctively drawn to his kind and caring presence. Despite the love surrounding him, Dominic's early years were marked by upheaval and change. From the beginning, the boy's family life was chaotic and unstable, characterized by frequent moves and stays with various relatives and friends over the years. A major upheaval occurred in 2009, when Corrine's relationship with Dominic's dad, Eric, ended. The court granted her full custody of Dominic. This decision remains highly controversial and difficult to understand to this day, given that
Big time trigger warning, major details coming out about Kaylee Gonzalez's injuries via the Gonzalez family. Christy and Steve sat down with Nancy Grace to give almost an hour-long interview regarding their treatment up until this point. Now, I try not to inject my personal feelings on this too much, but I am pissed. So let's just recap some of the things that Steve Gonzalez said that Judge Hippler, the presiding judge who was going to be overseeing the trial if there would have been one, what he said to this family behind closed doors. Judge Hippler said, I'm literally quoting, that no matter what Steve Gonzalez does, that he can't bring his daughter back. He also told them that they needed to shut their mouths and stop talking to the media. When Christy Gonzalez, Kaylee's mother, said she didn't agree with that, the judge said, I don't care if you agree with that.
Now let's get into some of the injuries that Steve and Christy described Kaylee having. Mind you, they didn't get this information until the night before Brian Kohberger's sentencing. This means that they were not given these details when weighing.
Video footage from the day that Ruby Frankie's 12-year-old son escaped from Jody Hildebrand's house has now been released. I'm going to warn you, though, this is disturbing. This sweet boy was treated absolutely horrible at the hands of his mother and her business partner. The first video is from this scene where he goes to the first neighbor's home. Unfortunately, they weren't home, but it was captured on the doorbell camera. The second video footage is him going to the home of the neighbor who ended up contacting 911. There's also some footage of him in the ambulance and also one of the police officers on a phone call describing how horrific this poor boy's wounds were.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station.
What's going on, son? Have a seat there.
It's personal.
I just want to let you know that we have found the body.
I'm going to pass out. Can you get me some help? Can you get me some help?
There's some people. Okay.
Give me some help. Oh my God. Give me some help. We're out. We're out. We're out. Help me, please.
This mother has just received shocking news about her missing daughter's dead body being found. But at the scene, what the officers discover is far more horrifying than anyone expected.
Uh-oh. See that? That's not good.
It looks like a human head to me.
Yeah, it looks like a chest cavity in the dark. Drag mark right there. We got drag marks right there. And we got a female body. Basically, she's face down, pants down. I can see enough.
On March 8th, 2020, an officer responds to a missing persons report, which sets the stage for a chilling mystery.
Is it son or daughter?
Daughter.
Daughter?
Yeah.
Okay. What is daughter's name?
Brittany, you want to pick me get a picture? Her friend that had her. I talked to him. He dropped her off at the high school down here at 4 o'clock with some guy. And I go, what guy? And he goes, I don't know. She just said my new friend. Tall, white, cowboy-looking guy with a green truck. And now nobody can find her. None of her friends. Her phone's not on.
Okay.
I don't know where to. I don't know what to do.
Has she ever did this before?
No.
Never done this before?
No. And even when she does go out and do dumb things, we get a call with some crazy kind of an excuse. You know what I mean? Trying to get her out of trouble. Nothing. Not a friend. None of her friends or best friends. Nobody can find her.
When 16-year-old Gabrielle Brittany Ulaki fails to return home after her father Jim Ulaki's band practice, he urges her mother Alicia to file a report, setting in motion an investigation that will uncover far more than a simple disappearance. Brittany's phone has gone dark, and the only clue they have is a fleeting description.
And all we know is that it was a green truck. We know nothing else about the individual.
No, the boy said it was an ugly green F-150 from the early 2000s.
The officer learns that Brittany was last seen with her friend Bryce Dickey, who dropped her off at school. But something about the incident immediately catches the officer's attention.
Is there any other friends that were with Bryce, or it was just Bryce?
I think it was just Bryce.
And she was with him, and then he dropped her off, and he had no idea who this guy was?
No, and he even said it seemed sketchy. And I'm like, well, why'd you leave her? Why'd you leave her?
Did Bryce happen to mention it if it was a Nevada license plate?
Did he see that much?
No, he didn't see anything about the truck. He said he was a pretty good distance away from it.
So he dropped her off and then she walked quite a ways? She didn't want him to just pull up to the vehicle?
He said he dropped her off right in front of the school, and then she walked into the parking lot.
Brittany asked to be dropped just a short distance away, an oddly precise choice, too deliberate to be random. Just as the officer wraps up, her mom has one more name to drop.
Her best friend said that she's been talking to a guy named JT. She says she doesn't know anymore. She just keeps calling him JT. She goes, has anybody talked to a guy named JT? I know they've been talking a lot lately.
What's Bryce's last name?
Dickie.
Dickie.
In the days before she vanished, Brittany's contact with a stranger worried her family. Social media hints at the link, but the full story remains hidden. Identifying JT as their prime suspect, the investigators' most urgent task becomes locating him. Believing Bryce is the only person who can reveal JT's whereabouts, they interview him at the high school parking lot.
Hey, Bryce.
How's it
Good. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no problem.
So, kind of run me through it so I can understand what's going on.
Alright, so Sunday, around 11, I started texting, got a few texts from Brittany, just asked if I wanted to hang out. I said sure, get ready and stuff. Told me she could meet me at Angel Park because she said her dad was doing band practice. And then went to town, called her when I got into town on 5th, and then picked her up at Angel Park, drove around, went up towards Mountain View, kept driving around, and then we were over in the horse palace section, and my dad called me asking if I could come back home. So I told her I needed to go, asked her if she wanted me to just drop her back off at Angel Park, and she said that she wanted me to drop her off at the high school to meet her new friends.
As he continues his story, Bryce recounts the final moments in which he saw Brittany.
She got out, I pulled out, and then started heading that way, and the F-150 was over there, but I didn't know that was where she was going at that time. And then got about right towards where it opens up, and then looked back, and they were both standing outside the truck. And then I got to the turnout right over there by the middle school, and then that F-150 was in motion.
Okay. So you said what was the F-150?
Yeah, it was ones that are really ugly looking, have the like side step in them.
Like that winter green, dark forest green?
Like a dark forest green.
But when stories line up too perfectly, investigators know there's usually more beneath the surface.
So you picked her up at 1:30. Where did you guys go? I mean, you said you were with her for how long?
Dropped her off at 4:30, so that's three and a half hours.
I'm sure that you didn't drive around for 3.5 hours, because that's a waste of gas.
No, I drove around for 3.5 hours.
Okay. That's all you did for 3.5 hours? That seems really odd. That you just drive aimlessly around.
That's what I do almost every day. I was in my Chevy.
What's your Chevy?
It's a 93 Chevy 1500. Sorry, Silverado.
Single cab or double?
Single. Single with a long bed.
So you just drove around? You didn't stop anywhere?
No. Didn't stop at all. Literally just kept doing circles. Drove around towards the sports complex, looped back around to the housing section.
I just think it's kind of odd. I think you know more than what you're telling.
The investigators sense that between the pickup and drop-off lies a part of the story Bryce refuses to reveal. To back up his story, Bryce shows officers his phone and the last messages he exchanged with Brittany.
I had a streak with Brittany for like 70 days. I had a habit I still seem to.
Where are you? Are you okay? Answer the phone. What time was that, please?
6:14.
Little sis is what you're referring to her as?
Yeah, she's called me Big Brother since like my 8th grade year.
The string of urgent texts suggests something is seriously amiss, prompting investigators to widen their search to trace where Brittany might have gone. But little did they know this search would lead them to a suspect no one could have seen coming. Authorities focus on the green Ford after Brittany's phone is traced to Boyd Kennedy Road, but deputies find nothing. As hours slip away, those closest to Brittany take the search into their own hands.
We had messaged Bryce if he could think of anywhere where maybe no one has looked yet. And he said, Spring Creek Mountains. And then he texted me and he told me, I love you. I'm so sorry this happened, but I hope you guys don't blame me. And I said, Bryce, we definitely do not blame you one bit. We love you too, bud. Keep your head up.
Meanwhile, Alicia distributes 540 flyers in 2 days, and a non-stop tip line floods investigators with leads. Just as hope flickers, a chilling text cuts through the chaos.
I got a text message, but it was, we have your daughter. If you don't send me $25,000, I'm going to feed her to my dogs. And they kept telling me that she's very sick. The drugs that they used to take her didn't react well with her. She's going to die.
Alicia alerts detectives and brings her phone to the sheriff's office for tracing. But what comes next takes the search out of the office and into the field. The detectives receive a call that some locals have spotted something unusual in the remote Burner Basin. The hunt now moves into the scrubland, where the horrific truth begins to surface.